What would you do if the very technology you helped create turned against you? Malcolm Reed, a talented software engineer, thought he had it all, until the AI security system he helped build accused him of hacking. The evidence was clear: his credentials, his access, the breach, it all pointed to him. But Malcolm knew one thing for sure: he didn't do it. Someone, or something, was framing him. The AI that was supposed to protect the company had become his worst enemy. Now, he was trapped in a battle for his career, and his freedom. Who's behind this? And how do you fight back when the system itself is stacked against you? Malcolm's only choice is to uncover the truth. But in a world where AI controls everything, can he ever trust the system again? Malcolm Reed sat on the couch, his daughter Maya curled up beside him, giggling as he lifted her into the air. Her laughter filled the room, a warm contrast to the cool evening outside. Naomi, his wife, glanced at them from the kitchen, smiling as she cleaned up after dinner. The television hummed in the background, the news anchor discussing the rise of AI-powered policing. Malcolm barely paid attention. He had worked on similar systems, helping to create algorithms designed to keep people safe. It was something he took pride in, something he believed in. Then came the knock. Loud, sharp. Naomi looked toward the door, startled. Malcolm frowned, gently setting Maya down before heading to the entrance. Peering through the peephole, his chest tightened. Police officers stood outside, their expressions unreadable, hands resting on their holsters. He opened the door. "Malcolm Reed?" one of them asked. "Yes." His voice was steady, but confusion flickered in his eyes. "Can I help you?" "Step outside, sir." "Hands where we can see them." A chill ran down his spine. "What's this about?" The officer didn't answer. Instead, another one stepped forward, grabbing his wrist. Cold metal snapped around it before he could react. From inside, Maya gasped. "Daddy?" Naomi rushed forward. "What are you doing?" "Malcolm Reed," the officer continued, tightening the cuffs. "You're under arrest for armed robbery." The words didn't make sense. Malcolm blinked, searching their faces for some kind of mistake. "That's insane." "I didn't." "You have the right to remain silent," the officer interrupted. Neighbors gathered outside. Some whispered. Others pulled out their phones, recording. The same people who had smiled at him in the mornings now watched in silence as he was dragged away. Then came the final blow. One of the officers turned a screen toward him. The AI system flashed a match. His own face stared back at him, marked 99.8% suspect identified. Malcolm's breath caught in his throat. AI didn't lie. Except, this time, it had. "Daddy!" Maya's voice cracked as she fought to run toward him. Naomi held her back, tears spilling down her face. Malcolm didn't struggle as they pushed him into the police car. He was too stunned, too lost in the terrifying reality settling over him. The door slammed shut. "You're not going anywhere," the officer said. And just like that, his life was over. Malcolm sat in the back of the police car, his wrists aching from the tight cuffs. The flashing red and blue lights outside blurred against the tinted windows as they drove through the city. His mind raced. Armed robbery? It was impossible. He had spent the entire day in his office, reviewing security protocols for the same AI-driven system that had now condemned him. He exhaled sharply, forcing himself to think. "This has to be a mistake. I just need to explain." But when they arrived at the precinct, reality hit like a hammer. The station was cold, sterile. Officers moved around like clockwork, their voices low but firm. One of them led Malcolm to a small processing desk. Another emptied his pockets, stripping him of his belongings, his phone, wallet, even the wedding ring he had never removed since the day he married Naomi. A young officer stood across from him, holding a file. He looked hesitant, almost uncertain. "You don't seem like the type," the officer muttered under his breath. Malcolm's eyes snapped to him. "That's because I didn't do anything." The officer hesitated but said nothing more as he motioned for Malcolm to follow. They led him to interrogation room 3. The walls were dull gray, the only furniture a metal table and 2 chairs. A camera blinked red in the corner of the ceiling. A few minutes later, the door opened. A man in a sharp suit stepped in, adjusting his cuffs. He was in his mid-40s, with graying blonde hair and sharp blue eyes. Malcolm recognized him instantly, Ethan Caldwell, his former friend and now direct competitor. Malcolm frowned. "What are you doing here?" Ethan smiled, but it wasn't friendly. "I wanted to see how you were holding up." Malcolm narrowed his eyes. "Damn well I didn't do this." Ethan shrugged. "The AI says otherwise." Something about the way he said it made Malcolm's stomach drop. "You had something to do with this," Malcolm said, his voice cold. Ethan chuckled, pulling out his phone and tapping the screen. A few seconds later, he turned it toward Malcolm. A security camera feed played. It showed a man wearing a black hoodie walking into a store, pulling out a gun, and demanding cash. The man's face was slightly obscured, but it looked exactly like Malcolm. Malcolm felt the blood drain from his face. "You doctored this," he said, his voice dangerously low. Ethan leaned in, his smile widening. "I didn't have to. The system did it for me." Realization hit like a freight train. The AI, the system Malcolm had helped develop, had been manipulated. The technology wasn't just flawed. It had been used against him. Ethan straightened his tie. "Enjoy your stay, Malcolm. This is just the beginning." And with that, he walked out, leaving Malcolm alone in the cold, gray room. Malcolm sat motionless in the interrogation room, Ethan's words ringing in his ears. "The system did it for me." His fingers curled into fists beneath the metal table. The AI system he had spent years perfecting, designed to keep people safe, had been weaponized against him. And Ethan, his former friend, had orchestrated it. The door opened again, and a detective walked in. A tall man with graying hair, deep lines on his face, and tired eyes. His badge read Detective Ron Garrett. He carried a thick case file and a tablet, setting them down before pulling out a chair across from Malcolm. "I've been doing this a long time," Garrett said, flipping open the file. "And I can tell when someone's lying." He slid a photograph across the table, a still image from the security footage Ethan had shown him earlier. The blurry figure in the frame looked exactly like Malcolm. Garrett leaned back, watching him. "That's you, right?" Malcolm exhaled through his nose, forcing himself to stay calm. "No. It's not." Garrett arched a brow. "The AI says it is. 99.8% match. The AI is wrong." Garrett didn't look convinced. He tapped on the tablet, pulling up more data. "Let's go over the details." The robbery happened at 3:47 p.m. The suspect was seen fleeing the store and disappearing down an alley. "We ran the footage through the city's recognition system, and boom, your name came up." Malcolm shook his head. "I was at work. In a meeting. There are security logs, badge swipes, cameras." Garrett held up a hand. "Already checked. There was a glitch in the system. No logs from 3:30 to 4 p.m. Malcolm's pulse quickened. A glitch? There were no glitches in the AI system, unless someone put them there. Garrett studied him, then sighed. "Look, Reed, I'll be straight with you. You're a family man, no priors, solid career. Doesn't fit the profile. But the evidence?" He tapped the photo. "It's stacking up." Malcolm leaned forward. "That's because someone made it stack up. That system is supposed to be foolproof, but it can be manipulated. I helped build it, I know how it works." Garrett watched him, his expression unreadable. Then he shut the case file. "All right," he said, standing. "Let's see what your lawyer has to say." He walked out, leaving Malcolm alone with one terrifying thought. If the AI had been hacked to frame him, how many others had been wrongfully convicted before him? Malcolm sat alone in the cold interrogation room, staring at the photograph Detective Garrett had left on the table. The blurred figure in the security footage looked exactly like him. But it wasn't him. He exhaled, pressing his fingertips against his temples. His mind raced, breaking down the situation piece by piece. A glitch in the system? No, that wasn't a coincidence. Someone tampered with the data. Someone powerful enough to cover their tracks. The door creaked open again. This time, Naomi stepped inside, her face pale, eyes red from crying. Behind her was a short, sharp-eyed woman in a navy blue suit, Jordan Patel, his lawyer. Naomi rushed to him, gripping his hands despite the cuffs. Malcolm, what's happening? Her voice trembled. Maya keeps asking where you are. Malcolm clenched his jaw. I don't know, Naomi. But I swear to you, I didn't do this. She nodded fiercely, already believing him. I know. Jordan Patel set her briefcase on the table and folded her arms. The AI match is damning, she said. But I've already put in an emergency request for an independent review of the evidence. Malcolm straightened. Good. The system was tampered with. The logs were wiped. Jordan's expression darkened. I figured as much. But getting the court to admit that will be another battle. The prosecution is pushing for a quick conviction. The judge assigned to your case? Henry Calloway. Malcolm's stomach dropped. Judge Calloway, a known supporter of AI-based policing. A man who had once publicly stated, if the system says you're guilty, then you're guilty. Jordan sighed, rubbing her temples. He doesn't like challenges to the system. And with Ethan Caldwell feeding this case to the media, public opinion is turning against you. There's already a viral headline calling you the tech exec turned criminal. Malcolm felt the weight of it pressing down on him. So what do we do? Jordan leaned forward. We attack the AI's credibility. If we can prove that its data was manipulated, we can create reasonable doubt. But we need more than speculation, we need evidence. Malcolm's mind raced. How do you prove that an AI system, one the world believes is infallible, was hacked? Then it hit him. There's a backup server, he said suddenly. A redundant system, off-site. It records all changes made to the AI's logs. If Ethan wiped the data, the backup might still have traces of what was altered. Jordan's eyes gleamed with interest. Where? Malcolm took a deep breath. It's not accessible remotely. I'd need someone to physically pull the data from the server. Naomi spoke up. Tell me where, and I'll get it. Malcolm hesitated. If Ethan had gone this far to frame him, he wouldn't stop now. If Naomi went after the evidence, she could be in danger. But they were running out of time. Finally, he met her gaze. There's a facility on the east side of the city. The security team knows me. If you can get inside, ask for access to the level 3 archive. The data should be there. Jordan nodded. If we get that data, we might just have a fighting chance. Malcolm exhaled, his heart pounding. This was his one shot at proving his innocence. But Ethan wasn't going to let him walk away that easily. Naomi gripped the steering wheel, her knuckles white as she sped toward the east side of the city. The weight of what she was about to do sat heavy in her chest, but she pushed the fear aside. Malcolm was depending on her. She could still hear Maya's voice when she had left home, soft, confused. When's Daddy coming back? Naomi had forced a smile, swallowing her own fear. Soon, baby. Daddy just needs to fix something. Now, she was here, pulling up to the Data SEC archives, the off-site storage facility Malcolm had told her about. The building loomed ahead, a concrete structure with tinted windows and a security checkpoint at the entrance. Taking a deep breath, she grabbed Malcolm's old employee badge from her purse. She had found it tucked in his desk drawer before she left. It was her only chance at getting in. She stepped out of the car, smoothing her coat to hide her nerves, and approached the security desk. A guard, a middle-aged man with a buzz cut, barely glanced at her. ID. Naomi slid Malcolm's badge across the counter. I'm here to access level 3 archives. The guard frowned, scanning the badge. The machine beeped, access denied. Naomi's pulse quickened. The guard looked up, suspicious now. You're not Malcolm Reed. Think fast. She forced a polite smile. I know. I'm his assistant. Mr. Reed asked me to retrieve some files while he's in a meeting. Must have forgotten to update my access. She sighed, shaking her head. Typical boss, right? The guard hesitated. She could see the conflict on his face, whether to push back or just let it slide. I don't know, he muttered. Naomi leaned in slightly, lowering her voice. Look, I just need 5 minutes in the archive. You can even walk me in if you want. She flashed a small smile. I promise I won't touch anything I'm not supposed to. The guard exhaled, clearly not paid enough to argue. With a sigh, he swiped his own keycard. The gate unlocked with a click. You have 5 minutes, he muttered. Naomi hurried inside before he could change his mind. She followed Malcolm's directions through a maze of hallways until she reached a secured server room. Rows of metal cabinets stretched before her, blinking lights indicating massive data storage. She found the level 3 archive and yanked open a terminal. The screen loaded, asking for a manual decryption code. Her heart sank. Malcolm hadn't mentioned a code. Frantically, she scrolled through the interface, searching for another way in. Then, a soft beep came from behind her. Footsteps. She turned. A man in a suit stood in the doorway, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. Ethan Caldwell. "I was wondering when you'd show up," he said, smiling coldly. Naomi's blood ran cold. She wasn't just running out of time, she had just walked into a trap. Naomi's breath caught in her throat as she locked eyes with Ethan Caldwell. His presence in the archive room wasn't just a coincidence, he had been expecting her. She clenched her fists, hiding her fear. "What are you doing here?" Ethan stepped further into the room, his polished shoes clicking against the tile. He looked completely at ease, as if he weren't standing in the middle of a crime scene of his own making. "That's my question, Naomi. What exactly are you looking for?" She straightened her back. "Proof that you framed my husband." Ethan chuckled, shaking his head. "Framed?" He pretended to be amused, but there was an edge to his voice. "Naomi, I think you're confused. The AI flagged Malcolm as the suspect. The system doesn't make mistakes," she scoffed. "That's a lie, and you know it. Malcolm helped build this system. He knows its weaknesses, like how someone with the right access can alter facial recognition matches, erase security logs, and plant fabricated evidence." Ethan's smile didn't fade, but something flickered in his eyes. Even if that were true, no one would believe it. Everyone trusts AI over human judgment. That's the beauty of it. Naomi stepped toward him. "And what happens when people find out that someone like you can manipulate it? That it's not as perfect as you've made everyone believe?" Ethan sighed, pulling a small device from his pocket, a jammer. He pressed a button, and instantly, the cameras in the room blinked off. Naomi's stomach twisted. "You should have stayed out of this," Ethan said quietly. "I was hoping Malcolm would take the fall quietly, but now you're making things messy." Naomi's mind raced. The guard at the front still thought she had 5 minutes. If she didn't get out of here soon, she wouldn't have a chance to expose the truth. Her eyes flicked to the nearest console. She just needed the backup logs, proof that Ethan had altered the AI's data. Without thinking, she lunged for the keyboard. Ethan reacted fast, grabbing her wrist and yanking her back. She stumbled but refused to go down without a fight. Twisting her arm free, she slammed her elbow into his ribs. Ethan cursed, staggering backward. She didn't hesitate. She grabbed a USB drive from her pocket and jammed it into the console. A loading bar appeared. Data transfer, 12%. 18%. Ethan recovered fast. He lunged for her, grabbing the USB drive just as it hit 50%. "Not so fast," he sneered, ripping it from the terminal. He held it up between 2 fingers, victorious. Naomi's heart pounded. If he destroyed that drive, Malcolm would have no proof. But then a voice echoed from the hallway. "Hey! What's going on in there?" The security guard. Ethan's face darkened. He couldn't risk being caught. Naomi took her chance. She reached for a second USB drive, a spare Malcolm had insisted she bring. Without giving Ethan time to react, she shoved it into another terminal, triggering an auto-download of the same files. She had him. Ethan's jaw tightened as he realized what she had done. "You're making a mistake, Naomi." She pulled the USB drive from the terminal, gripping it tightly. "No, Ethan. You did." Before he could stop her, she turned and ran. Naomi's heart pounded as she sprinted down the dimly lit hallway, the USB drive clutched tightly in her fist. Behind her, she could hear Ethan's hurried footsteps as he gave chase. "Naomi," he called, his voice laced with frustration. "Be smart about this. You won't make it out of here." She ignored him, forcing her legs to move faster. The security guard at the front entrance was her only hope. If she could reach him before Ethan caught up, she might have a chance to get out of this facility with the evidence. She turned a sharp corner, nearly slipping on the polished floor. Ahead, the checkpoint was in sight, the guard was still there, lazily flipping through his phone. "Hey," she shouted. Help! Someone's trying to stop me. The guard looked up, startled. His confusion deepened when he saw Ethan appear behind her, his expensive suit slightly disheveled, his expression masked in calm authority. "Naomi," Ethan said smoothly, slowing his pace. "What are you doing?" "We were just talking." The guard glanced between them, uncertain. Naomi knew how this looked, her running, him walking confidently like he was in control. Ethan was good at playing the part. She didn't have time for this. Shoving her hand into her pocket, she yanked out Malcolm's old badge and slammed it onto the security desk. "I'm Malcolm Reed's wife," she said quickly. "There's been a serious breach in the AI system, and I have proof that it was tampered with. I need to get out of here now." The guard hesitated. Ethan, standing just a few feet away now, let out a low chuckle. "You really think she has proof?" Ethan said, shaking his head. "She doesn't even know what she's talking about. She stole confidential company property. That USB drive is full of classified data, and if she leaves with it, she'll be committing a federal crime." Naomi's stomach twisted. Ethan was twisting the truth to make her the villain. "She's lying," she said firmly. "The only crime here is what he's done, framing my husband. If you let him stop me, you're letting an innocent man go to prison." The guard's eyes darted back and forth between them. The uncertainty was clear on his face. Then Ethan took a step closer and dropped his voice. "Think carefully, officer," he murmured. "Whose side do you want to be on? The company that pays you, or the woman making wild accusations?" Naomi's breath caught. This was it. The guard's decision would decide everything. For a tense moment, the guard remained silent. Then, with a sharp exhale, he pressed a button beneath the desk. The door unlocked. "Go," the guard muttered under his breath. Naomi didn't hesitate. She bolted forward, pushing through the exit. Behind her, she heard Ethan curse under his breath. "Stop her." But by the time he reached the door, Naomi was already outside, running toward her car. She had the evidence. Now, she just had to get it to Malcolm before Ethan found another way to stop her. Naomi's tires screeched against the pavement as she sped out of the Data SEC Archives parking lot, gripping the steering wheel with one hand while clutching the USB drive in the other. Her pulse pounded in her ears, drowning out everything except one thought: get to Malcolm's lawyer before Ethan stops her. She glanced in the rearview mirror. Ethan's sleek black sedan had just pulled out of the lot behind her. Her stomach clenched. He wasn't letting her go that easily. The city lights blurred past as she weaved through traffic, pushing the speed limit. She knew exactly where she needed to go: Jordan Patel's office. If she could get the evidence into the hands of Malcolm's lawyer, it would be out of Ethan's reach. But Ethan was closing in. A sudden blare of a horn made her jolt as he swerved dangerously close to her, his car nearly clipping her rear bumper. Her phone rang. She didn't have to check to know who it was. Jaw tight, she put him on speaker. "Give it up, Ethan." His voice was eerily calm. "Naomi, pull over. Let's talk." She let out a bitter laugh. "Talk? Like how you talked Malcolm into trusting you before you stabbed him in the back. You don't understand what you're getting yourself into," Ethan continued, ignoring her anger. "Even if you have that drive, it won't change anything. The AI report has already been submitted. The court trusts the system over any evidence you claim to have." Naomi swerved around a slow-moving truck. "Then why are you chasing me, Ethan? If you're so sure I can't do anything, why are you so desperate to stop me?" Silence. Then, a hard hit from behind. Her car jolted forward, tires skidding. Ethan had rammed her. She barely regained control before he hit her again, harder this time. Her hands tightened on the wheel. He was willing to run her off the road. Her mind raced. She had one advantage: she knew the city better than Ethan did. At the last second, she veered sharply onto a side street, cutting through an alley barely wide enough for her car. Ethan's sedan skidded past, unable to turn fast enough. For a moment, she thought she had lost him. Then she saw his headlights in her mirror again. He had doubled back. Her heart pounded as she floored it, heading toward Patel's office. She had minutes, maybe seconds, before he tried something even more dangerous. And then, a red light ahead. Her stomach twisted. No time to stop. She sped through, tires screeching. A car honked, barely missing her. Ethan, stuck behind the cross traffic, slammed his fist against his dashboard in frustration. Naomi didn't wait to see what he would do next. She was almost there. She whipped into the parking lot of Patel's office, throwing the car into park and bolting out before the engine had fully stopped. She sprinted up the steps, yanking the front door open. The receptionist jolted in surprise. "Ma'am, you can't just." "I need Jordan Patel," Naomi gasped. "Now." Behind her, she heard Ethan's tires screech into the lot. Patel appeared at the end of the hallway, eyes widening as she took in Naomi's disheveled appearance. Naomi didn't wait. She shoved the USB drive into the lawyer's hands. "This is it. The proof Malcolm needs." Before Patel could even react, the front door slammed open. Ethan stood in the doorway, chest heaving, his comm mask cracking. But it was too late. Jordan Patel turned to him, holding up the USB. "Mr. Caldwell," she said coolly, "I think we need to talk." Naomi stood her ground as Ethan stormed into the office, his face a mask of barely contained fury. The receptionist gasped, instinctively backing away, but Patel remained perfectly composed. The lawyer's sharp eyes flickered between Naomi and Ethan, instantly recognizing the tension in the room. Patel held up the USB drive. "I assume this contains something important." Naomi nodded, breathless. "It proves that Malcolm was framed." Ethan tampered with the AI system to make him look guilty. Ethan forced a smirk, straightening his suit jacket as if regaining his composure. "Come on, Jordan. Better than to take unverified evidence seriously. Anyone can plant files on a USB drive. What she has means nothing." Patel raised an eyebrow. "And yet, you seem very invested in stopping her from handing it over." Naomi's heart pounded. Patel wasn't easily intimidated, but she knew Ethan was powerful. If he found a way to spin this before Patel could review the files, Malcolm could still lose everything. "I suggest you give that to me," Ethan said smoothly, taking a step forward. "Before we turn this into a much bigger problem." But Patel wasn't fazed. She slid the USB into a laptop on her desk, the screen flickering to life. "Let's see what's on here, shall we?" Ethan's jaw clenched. "Jordan, I'm warning you." "Warning me?" Patel let out a low chuckle, leaning back in her chair as she started scrolling through the files. "Ethan, you must think I'm a fool. You don't warn someone when you're in the right. You let the truth speak for itself. And from what I'm seeing here," she turned the laptop slightly so Naomi could see the screen. Rows of data logs were displayed, timestamps, overrides, manual entries that should have never existed. Patel tapped one of them. "This is an unauthorized system override. And look at the user ID attached to it." Naomi leaned in and felt a rush of vindication. "Ethan Caldwell." Patel exhaled sharply. "Naomi's not lying. These logs show clear manipulation of the AI's case records. You falsified the evidence against Malcolm." Ethan's hands balled into fists, his confident mask finally slipping. "This is a misunderstanding," he stammered. "I was investigating anomalies. If anything, I was trying to correct errors in the system." Naomi cut him off. "You tried to run me off the road." Patel's head snapped up. Ethan took a slow step back, realizing he had overplayed his hand. "Listen, Jordan. We can work something out. You're a reasonable person. You know how things work in this city. Let's talk about this." "Oh, we will," Patel said, closing the laptop with a sharp click. "In court." Naomi's breath caught. "So, you'll take the case?" Patel turned to her and gave a firm nod. "Not only that, but we're taking this straight to the judge. If Ethan thinks he can manipulate the justice system without consequences, he's about to learn a very expensive lesson." Ethan's face darkened. He turned sharply toward the door, but before he could leave, Patel's voice rang out. "I wouldn't run if I were you, Ethan. It'll only make you look more guilty." Ethan paused for half a second. Then, without another word, he stormed out. The moment the door slammed shut, Naomi let out a shaky breath, her entire body finally registering the exhaustion and adrenaline of the night. Patel gave her a reassuring look. "Go home, Naomi. I'll handle it from here." For the first time since Malcolm's arrest, Naomi felt a flicker of hope. This fight wasn't over, but at least, now, she wasn't fighting alone. Naomi sat in the packed courtroom, her fingers clasped tightly in her lap. The air was thick with tension as the judge reviewed the final pieces of evidence. Across the room, Malcolm sat beside Patel, his face unreadable but his posture steady. He had spent weeks behind bars for a crime he didn't commit. Today, that injustice would finally be undone. Ethan Caldwell, once so smug and untouchable, now looked anything but. He sat rigidly at the defense table, his once pristine suit slightly wrinkled, his usual arrogance reduced to nervous tension. His legal team whispered frantically among themselves, but it was clear there was no salvaging this case. Patel had dismantled every argument they tried to make. The evidence presented in this courtroom, she had said, standing confidently before the jury, proves beyond a doubt that Ethan Caldwell manipulated AI case logs to frame an innocent man. He abused his power, weaponized a system meant to be impartial, and nearly succeeded in destroying Malcolm Reed's life. But the truth always finds a way to surface. Now, the judge cleared his throat, pulling Naomi from her thoughts. He adjusted his glasses, his gaze sharp as he delivered his ruling. This court finds that Malcolm Reed was wrongfully accused due to deliberate tampering of the AI system. Given the overwhelming evidence presented, all charges against Mr. Reed are dropped immediately. Furthermore, the judge shifted his gaze to Ethan, who looked pale, his fingers gripping the edge of the table. Mr. Caldwell will be taken into custody and formally charged with obstruction of justice, evidence tampering, and wrongful prosecution. A gasp rippled through the courtroom. Naomi exhaled, her heart pounding with relief. It was over. Malcolm was free. The bailiff approached Ethan, who finally snapped out of his stunned silence. "Wait, you can't, this is ridiculous. I was just doing my job," he protested, his voice rising in desperation. But the bailiff was already securing his wrists in handcuffs. "You have the right to remain silent," the officer stated flatly. Naomi watched as Ethan was led away, his once golden career crumbling in real time. The same system he had tried to manipulate had turned against him. As the judge adjourned the session, Malcolm turned to Naomi. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then, he reached for her hand, squeezing it tightly. "You saved me." Tears welled in her eyes. "I just did what you would have done for me." Patel joined them, a small, satisfied smile on her face. "This is just the beginning. We're going after everyone who helped cover this up." Ethan didn't act alone. Naomi nodded. She knew there were still battles ahead. But for now, Malcolm was free. And that was all that mattered. As they walked out of the courthouse together, the sunlight hitting their faces for the first time in what felt like forever, Naomi finally let herself breathe. Justice had won today. And that was enough.